Hey Carlton, have you heard of Loved by the Culture?
No, child. Loved by who?
Well, Loved by the Culture is an educational platform that centers the experiences and history that has impacted people of color, primarily for those within the United States. The purpose of Loved by the Culture is to offer a refreshing take on culturally relevant teaching by bringing the knowledge to the people in exciting ways through Instagram history lessons and education-inspired merchandise.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of this. It is their hope that through this platform, people will be able to learn lessons on a true history that has influenced the Black experience beyond the traditional classroom.
To shop and for more information, follow Loved by the Culture on Instagram and Facebook at lovedxtheculture_.
In light of Miss Rona, the boys at BGO Pod have adapted a virtual platform to conduct and record interviews with this season's very special opinionated people, or VSOPs for short.
We thank you for bearing with any technical difficulties in advance. This pandemic has been raggedy, but in spite of, the conversations we've had with our VSOPs have been refreshing and were well worth the technical struggle. Now, enjoy the show.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Carlton Taylor
and Sean Brinkley.
We are unable to answer the phone right now.
So either fuck off or enjoy the show.
Ain't a period. That was not a part, I promise. I don't know what y'all heard.
We always eating on here though. Eating, drinking.
You know what?
We need to start an ASMR channel. Like,
We do.
for real.
That didn't pick it up.
Right.
Actually, I don't know if I can do ASMR.
Why?
That's your ministry.
Oh.
Cause you connect with the microphone.
Oh yeah.
I'd be doing stuff and the microphone be like, girl, what? Like maybe if you was looking at it on the video, it'll make more sense. But
They just be, I think they be aiming to be like extra as fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm extra, so I think that's why. Well, I mean, you extra as fuck.
I am.
I don't know.
I don't know if auditorily I'm extra though. Well,
That's
not in a way that stimulates other things that could cause for a
Gotcha.
proper ASMR experience.
Yeah.
I yell and I screech. I guess being around me is an ASMR experience.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. I mean, your laugh is iconic. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
Just
such a compliment.
iconic.
That is such a compliment.
Yes. Like, you in another room and you start laughing.
And it just resonates. honey.
Right. That is Carlton.
It says, fuck all types of structure. We're just going to
Right.
go right through this wall.
Do you laugh at work?
I do, and the entire office knows I'm
Yep.
laughing.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
If I'm listening to a podcast. Wow, it's been a long periodically time since I've been in the office. I haven't been in the office in 6 months. But yeah, they
Must be
typically
nice.
know. It's yeah, but they typically know that it's me laughing, and then I mean, if you're around me and we're in the office, we're laughing.
Right.
Like, you're not gonna have me in the office just,
Right.
you know.
I mean, but for me, when you laugh, I'm like, if he laughing like that, I gotta go see what it is.
Oh.
Like, for you to be hollering like that, it gotta be something that just
It's outlandish.
because your daily LMAOs dead every time.
And you know, I only put it because it's been a second since I put one up. I only put them up when I be on the floor, and I want other people to be on the floor with me. Like none of us getting up,
dead.
just dead. And when I used to put them up, I'd be at the office, and so I'd be dead at the office. My cubicle be shaking,
Oh Lord.
like all the things.
No, I've started that too because I just be in my office just hollering sometimes. And I think it's only because everybody else like be in their own little space. So
Yeah.
I be relaxed as I want to be in my office
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
So I just be kikiing. I mean, you got to kiki to get through the day sometimes.
You fucking do, especially when your supervisor got you bent backwards.
Oh. Anyways.
You gonna let me laugh? I'ma laugh.
No,
Because if it's either a laugh or it's 2 chops to the throat.
They had me bent backwards on Friday because
Hmm.
I called you and I don't know what it is. And y'all already know where I work. So whatever, I don't even care. My supervisor know where I stand with the issue and all that other shit. So I don't really give a fuck at this point. But I don't like that passive aggressive shit via email. I will, especially when we on the same office in the same proximity, I will walk over to your office and whoop your ass. I don't give a fuck about none of that.
That's rude.
Like, I don't like when people rude as fuck via email, and it don't even be directly rude. Like, I can deal with people who directly rude, but I can't really deal with like the passive aggressive, as explained in the previous email. First of all, bitch, you didn't send me no email in the first place, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And two, you need to check yourself, because I will come and wipe your ass through this email. That's child. It is.
Sean said he will wipe your ass with an email.
No,
Damn.
because like it is so hard being from East Atlanta sometimes, and like you sitting in spaces where, like, granted, working in a university environment, you have a little bit more leeway than in a corporate environment sometimes. Because I mean, you working with students. Students are unconventional, so you got to be unconventional in some sense, and that's what you find with most student affairs professionals. But some folks still, I don't give a fuck about this office etiquette shit. I will correct you when you need to be corrected. Don't talk to me any type of way or any of that shit. I don't like that. And I told my supervisor, I don't like that.
Well, I think office etiquette is probably like the biggest, like the fakest shit. Because like when we were having our conversation, I was like, you have to do this type of thing because it'll sit. Like I was like, have paper trails.
All right, I forward the thread back.
But it's just it's so passive aggressive. It's so fake. It's so like, like it's nothing like having an office climate or a culture in the office where you can just be upfront about stuff, like just be like, this just don't sit well with me, or this is bullshit.
Right.
Because it's very much so that way for AGMC, my course, but definitely not at work.
Yeah.
Like it's everybody, if they feel some type of way about a person or someone in leadership, they'll go to somebody outside that person and sit it. They feel some type of way about something.
Well, I'm in the energy of, cause like did we talk about it this season? Like professionalism? Like did that come up in anybody's conversation? Or was that just something we've talked about outside of?
It could have. I don't remember.
Just the idea of professionalism, like that completely should be redefined, like being respectful and being open to telling people how they're actually acting, because you're not only conducting business, like you're interacting with people on a day-to-day basis,
and you're there for 40 hours a week,
right? So I'm bound to have some type of personal, because we're human at the end of the motherfucking day, so I'm bound to have some type of like personal conversation with you.
Yep.
And off the rip that we're speaking all the time, I need you to have a little bit of decorum about how you come and talk to people. Child, it is
big facts, no fallacies.
The East Atlanta came out of me, and I was like, girl,
I'm telling you,
I don't know who you talking to, but let's not.
I mean, God is so good because He done prevented me from jumping over a few cubicle walls.
No, people really be trying you,
and running straight through doors, like the whole nine. Because you're absolutely correct. The way I be snapping my neck sometimes when people say stuff at me, or the way I roll my eyes, and every time I think about how hard I be rolling my eyes, I think about that what Medea said. I forgot. I don't remember if it was a play or if it was a movie. I do not remember. But she said, "You know what it looks like when you roll your eyes," and so she basically like did this, like when people shaking dice or something in their hand. She's like, "That's what it looked like when you roll your eyes." And I was floored. And then people like used to say that when you rolled your eyes, like I remember very young, they were like, your eye gonna get stuck one day if you keep rolling your eyes. Now that's probably not gonna happen. I mean, I don't know. I don't know shit about the eye and the optic nerve and what they do. I know your contacts can get lost in your eye, but they don't stop me from wearing contacts. So. Right.
I think I roll my eyes at least 3 times. No, 3 is lowballing. At least between 15 and 20. I think I roll my eyes a good amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Fuck people, bro.
I mean, especially at work, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you?
We should. I mean, that's what we need to do at ASMR on our side.
Size? Would y'all tune in?
Determine the mood by the
By the side.
by the side.
Ooh.
What done happened this week?
Okay. What happened last night? Huh.
I'm dead.
This morning.
Oh my goodness.
This is not. We are not setting y'all up. Like, this is just authentic. There's no.
Oh my god.
This is not pre-planned.
Oh my god.
That is hilarious.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, good.
So much, I just feel like the world explodes every 3 or 4 days at this point, and I'm not sure what it is about 2020, about this being an election year. I don't know. I don't know if it's just my personal life, but all kind of shit not happened this week. Tory done dropped the album.
Girl.
We thought he was gonna drop an apology, but but he really only dropped the ball. So and just continuing to paint a bad picture for us quality black men out there.
Who said Tory was quality?
I thought he had some kind of decorum about himself, because
You know what, I did too.
He was very vocal, especially earlier in the summer. I think he was checking like some of his counterparts, his celebrity friends who were doing problematic things, like,
oh yeah, he was going on live, and
he was out there marching, doing all the kind of shit. I was like, all right, I see you, we see you. But then he just had to go and shoot somebody in the foot, and whether he said it or not, because I'm a person who likes to give people the benefit of the doubt, and even after the story, I mean, I believe Meg off rip, I'm like, okay, I mean, Meg not just finna speak out the crack of her ass. Like, that's a real bitch. Real bitches have a way to relate to one another and know if we telling the truth or not. So I'm like, okay, I see you, Meg, but I also see you too, Tory. And only reason off of that, you already know how I feel about, us attacking one another. Like, I like to hear other black people out when some shit that came out about them. And I'll get to the Attorney General in a minute. But I was like, all right, like maybe something did happen. Maybe he was drunk and he was waving the gun around. I don't know, some shit. But then he just had to come out and drop this album and basically use the situation as a clout move and to gather people's attention. And people are actually listening too. So, I mean, it works. I don't know who's more problematic in the situation, the general public or him, but we'll dive into that later, I guess.
That's very, he's taking the Carter's approach.
Okay.
Because Beyonce she's not just going to sit down and have
But she also ain't shot nobody in the foot.
Well, she hasn't. She hasn't. And she didn't cheat on herself. Her husband did. But she turned it into an opportunity to capitalize.
Yes.
Now in Tory's space, I don't think
no.
He no.
He shouldn't have done that.
But
he did.
Get your bag.
Yeah.
Get your strings, honey.
And he getting them.
I don't know who to believe, and I don't know neither one of the motherfuckers. I'm not gonna act like I do. Off rip, I want to believe Meg because I support black women. Period.
Right.
But I was hearing some disconnects in the story.
Right.
I don't think any of us have enough information to sit down and be like, we're going to figure this shit out because I got a degree in being a detective and no good damn well.
Right. And that's what I always comes to whether it's politics, celebrity gossip, whatever. Like, I always try to wait for more information to come out about the story to actually see the truth. Because the media can spin. I mean, we've talked about how the media spins all type of shit. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, we're not about to pin two prominent black figures against each other. Like, I'm not about to do that on my own terms. So whatever. Like,
I still don't know how I feel about the Jussie Smollett situation.
I don't know either. Because I didn't know canceled him. You know, I don't understand the whole
Well, I haven't
cancel.
seen that man in a long period of time. Not on social media. He hasn't been speaking out about anything. Like he's like, I think he canceled himself, to be honest.
That's fair.
And I mean, I just don't know. I don't know, because I'm still completely blown by the fact that if he staged this whole thing, and I mean, he was charged with something, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But if he did it, why the fuck would you? And if he didn't do it, then like it's too much. It's too much, and it's not my life. It's other shit that I have to worry about that I can actually control.
Stressful.
And so with this situation, I just need, first off, this is me. If black men treated black women correctly, this wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah.
Like if the rhetoric was black men treats, like if it was common knowledge that black men treated black women with respect, regardless of if Meg made this up or if
Right.
it actually happened,
It wouldn't be even a grounds to stand on.
right? It would be, okay, so did this actually happen, or are y'all just like what's going on? I think it'll be a little bit more clearer,
Right.
as to what and who. And for black women, because it was a situation with basically Tory was messing with Meg's best friend and her, that if they respected each other in those spaces and then it let a man get in between, or let something else get in between and rough things up.
Yeah. And reinforce,
like
his
if
negative
black
behavior.
people just supported black people emotionally, physically, mentally, financially,
Yeah,
then the world would be a better place.
period. And that's on period, because not to drag this out. I mean, it's our podcast. I don't give a fuck. We're gonna
drag this whole to the
right.
The trees come down.
But I mean, because next what happened, and just talking about my week, like, you know, all the rulings came out about Breonna Taylor. I'm like, okay, we're back in this space. We're heated. I'm
Bullshit.
like, all right,
that was bullshit.
Let's hear what old dude has to say.
I didn't want to hear it. What did he say? Did he say anything? He
made a public statement.
Of course he did.
I originally ignored it, but then I went back and I was like, no, let me stay up to date, because basically when we get in these spaces where, like, at least this year, where a lot of people are mad and frustrated, that really impacts my emotions. Me being an empath, I'd say empath. I get really connected to like how my friends, family are feeling about certain things, and it honestly really weighs on my mental health. So I have to sort of check out of social media, and that's a lot of the things that are being reposted, especially after when the first set of riots started beginning, because that was a lot for me.
Yeah.
And a lot happened fast, really within like a matter of 3 or 4 hours. So when this happened, I'm like, scroll past, but I was like, nope, we got to deal with these things. And I have to learn how to deal with these things myself and be able to process them. So I went back and I listened. He was making a public speech about, I mean, you know, because he's a politician at the end of the day. So he was speaking,
don't make excuses.
You know, he gave the disclaimer, you know, as a black man, and of course, you know, all that rhetoric. And he basically ended with, you know, no, sometimes justice doesn't serve grief, or it's not going to serve everybody's grief. And
interesting.
I'm not sure if that's verbatim, but that's pretty much the energy that he was giving. And you know, I started reading through the comments at that point. I'm like, okay, people are mad, and I felt the way about the statement too. I was like, I'm not sure if that was the right word to say, but okay. Going off my whole idea, I'm not about to just tear this black man down off his bad word choice, whatever, because he may actually be doing everything in his power to, you know, bring justice, because he's only on a state level. This was a federal ruling. So whatever. I started going through the comments and people coming from him, and I'm like, all right, let me take a step back, because that's when I really started feeling well. Because
it was like, federal for real?
I think so, from what I understand.
It went to the Supreme Court?
I thought it did, because I thought that,
or was it the Supreme Court of Kentucky?
It may have been that.
Or is it a Supreme Court? Child. I don't know. We doing some fact checking. I'm in my app library trying to.
Right. I think you were trying to Google. But anyways, as we get clarification on that, whether it was federal or not, I started feeling the way that people were actually talking about him, like talking about his family and he's a sellout and all that other stuff. And I personally, I don't like shit like that. Didn't come to find out he my frat brother too. And I'm like, all right, y'all, I can't just let y'all go for my dude like that. Like, and I was like, all right, let me take a step back before I speak out on social media and people start trying to flame me and call me all type of names. Because one time, I don't got time for that shit because I would deck you in your face. You don't got time to be talking to me sideways and
Right.
shit.
Fair.
So I start, I'm scrolling through his Instagram and I find out he's Republican. And I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing wrong being Black and Republican. You do you. Okay, cool. Then I started seeing like the aesthetic of his page, and it's not a whole bunch of Black people on there. A lot of his counterparts are white. And I'm like, okay, cool. Still fine. I'm really fact checking this man at this point. Before I just develop my opinion about him, because I feel like that's what we do as Black people. Develop our opinions before we actually get the facts. So I'm like, okay, cool. Took another step back because it became too much for me again. And I finally get on Twitter and I see people adding this man. And at this point, I'm just curious. So I go and scroll through his page. And it wasn't how people stopped at how this case came out. But what really did it for me was the rhetoric that he was stating when it came to Donald Trump and why he supports Donald Trump. And I'm like, I screenshot it too just for this episode because I'm like, this is what we're not going to do. So he states, and I hope we're not taking too long, Carlton. Let me know if I need to move the fuck on and talking about my life. But
y'all know this is gonna be a nice segue into what the fuck we're talking about today.
But I won't get into. I'm gonna skip to where he talks about identity.
Oh Jesus. I'm scared to hear this. This Black man that supports Trump talking about identity.
And I quote, as I think of those giants and their broad shoulders, I also think about Joe Biden, who says, if you aren't voting for me, you ain't Black. Who argued that Republicans who would put us back in chains. Who says there is no diversity of thought in the Black community. Mr. Vice President, look at me. I am Black. We are not all the same, sir. I am not in chains. My mind is my own, and you can't tell me how to vote because of the color of my skin. I will skip that. The politics of identity, cancellation, and mob rule are not acceptable to me. Republicans trust you can think for yourself and pursue your American dream however you see fit. And then he goes on to say some bullshit about, hold up, here's another thing. Republicans will never turn a blind eye to the unjust acts, but neither will we accept an all-out assault on Western civilization. My values were shaped by the faith of by my parents, and I worked at their small coffee shop, meeting people from all walks of life, and I realized something. No matter who we are, everyone needs a cup of coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Democracy, he also said it was General Dwight Eisenhower, a future Republican president, who said, democracy is a system that recognizes the equality of humans before the law.
I don't drink coffee. So fuck his analogy. Okay, go ahead. This is
no, you good. Cause I dismissed him at that point, and I didn't cancel him. I dismissed him.
And that was said a month before the ruling.
It was a whole month ago.
Yeah.
So I see why it came out the way that it went out. I think people wrong. People should be mad about this ruling, but people should be mad that he put his Black ass in the office in the first place. If he's spitting that type of rhetoric, just being quite frank. Y'all voted for this man.
Attorney General is voted for?
Yes. He's running for re-election right now.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's on the state level. It's like You got your governor and all your people underneath. He's on that chain of people. But that's where I dismissed him, because I was like, at this point, granted, what you're saying is it's true and it's not incorrect, but it's incorrect in the context of the country that we live in, because it's almost like he doesn't put his identity first, his black ass identity. And granted, you don't always have to, but when it comes to things like politics and systems, you have to. And I feel like with you being in such a high position as Attorney General, you can almost never dismiss the fact that something is not racially fueled.
So what was his statement? You said he said that justice doesn't align with grief. What did he say?
It's basically not gonna address the grief of everybody.
Okay. That's problematic to me.
It is.
Because nobody's saying that, because first off,
you missed the whole point.
Right. Like grief isn't going to be resolved by justice being served. Serving justice is just the right thing to do. And that was completely missed in this entire case.
Yep.
Like the one of the officers was charged with the endangerment of people around the situation. That's what a warrant endangerment is. It wasn't for the killing of Breonna Taylor.
Right.
And that's trifling as hell to me. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, you know what I'm saying?
He getting the full 9.
And I mean,
everything.
Like literally, he would have been dead on sight. Like it's not,
right.
It wouldn't have been a matter of anything. They literally, even though legally they were supposed to be there, the problem with the word legally is that legally, laws can be wrong. They can be, like legally, slavery existed. Legally, to this day, you can discriminate against LGBTQ people in the state of Georgia.
Right.
That doesn't make it right. You know what I'm saying? It's bullshit.
So,
but I'm not gonna sit here, girl,
because we got a whole guest.
We got a whole guest today. So what we're gonna do is take a good old break, Hanny.
Did you want to give an update on this?
Child, I'm living and I'm blessed and highly favored. That's how I'm feeling today. Shit.
But,
my week was occupied by some other shit. I was just over it. I was over this week. That damn ruling. I think it came out on Wednesday, and I was just pissed. I was pissed. I didn't even bother. Like I honestly shut down my brain on Wednesday. I barely did work.
Yeah.
And anything that came my way, I literally faced it. Like I'm in present day, I'm so selfish. And I don't mean that to say that because my selfishness is not the same as somebody else's selfishness. Mm-hmm. I took a step back from myself in ways that I know that I overexert myself. Mm-hmm. And so work is one of those days. I've been a workaholic since I graduated from Southern. I just took time for me. I sat my black ass down in my bed and I watched Girlfriends. And I thought about things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get up and run. I felt that I was leaving myself in 2020, like the early part of 2020. And actually, I feel like I left myself in 2019 and I was trying to get myself back. And then Corona said, actually, fuck you and your ambition. I'm gonna knock you back down 3 pegs.
Yeah.
And so this week, I just kind of was like, you know what, girl? But for what it's worth, and somebody that does commentary on some news station, it's not coming to me. This ruling showed that Black lives do not matter in the state of Kentucky. That's just how I feel. All this uproar, all this craziness just shows, and more specifically, Black women's lives.
Yeah.
Like it's just really fucked up to me that we're able to say, you know, all these different things, and we try to inspire, and end up expiring Black minds and Black ideas, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
As a Black person, as somebody that's been uplifted and supported by Black women all of his life, mm-hmm. to see this, and then somebody who has my last name,
right,
literally just completely disregarded.
Yeah.
And the work that they're doing, the work that their communities are doing, the work that the world has been doing, trying to, you know, elevate a message of positivity and love in a time that's already extremely difficult and complicated for so many people. For this to be the outcome of that is just really frustrating. But at the same time, it makes me like I've just gone through so many personal evolutions throughout this entire pandemic.
Same.
It just makes me
Same.
want to keep pushing and makes me want to really do some soul searching so I can figure out ways that I can be impactful. Because this is bullshit.
Yeah.
But the reason why it's bullshit is because we have laws in place that basically allow bullshit to happen.
Yep.
And the only way that's going to change is if we change it. And we've said that time and time again. So hopefully it's through your thick skulls. No pressure. All love. I'm just saying. Negroes can be stubborn as hell. We have to do something about it. We can't just sit at home, not vote, and wonder why people are in office and doing things that we don't agree with.
Okay.
But that's where I am.
All right. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to
hop into this thing. Like a kangaroo.
That sound effect was not ASMR friendly.
I mean, what sounds do kangaroos make?
I don't know. I've never been around a damn kangaroo.
I
just know they're marsupials. And they oh my God. So quick tangent. Do you know kangaroos literally like their pouch is like the womb?
Yeah.
Oh, you knew that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not interesting no more.
That's what I be doing on YouTube sometimes. You know how you just end up wondering?
Yeah.
And you end up
looking at
elephants
kangaroos.
fight or some shit.
I don't think I've ever.
You need to watch elephants fight.
I don't think I want to. Do they fight with their trunks?
Yeah, it's like a.
They put all they.
Or like walruses fight, because like what?
Walruses.
Yes. All animals fight, or like giraffes. Giraffes fighting.
Now giraffes fighting is funny.
That's
as
funny.
Fuck. Because they use the hell out of their necks. And I'd be like, girl. But they got plenty of it.
Right. Oh my goodness. Anyways.
All right, honey, we're going to go to break.
Right.
What's good, BGO fam? It's Carlton.
And Sean, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Black, Gay, and Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard already, Anchor is the easiest way to start your podcast.
Big facts. 1, it's free. 2, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your track straight from your phone or computer.
3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. And 4, you can make money with no limited listenership.
It's everything you need for a podcast in one place. Carlton and I have been using Anchor for a few months now, and we're a bit obsessed.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Don't wait, honey. Your future listeners are waiting.
Now, back to the show. We're back.
We're back.
Yeah.
And I'm still sipping on my kombucha. JT's. If y'all haven't tried JT's Synergy Raw Kombucha, get your life.
Okay.
It's at Walmart, Publix. Some coffee shops have it.
We need a sponsor because we sure be shouting out people.
We'll get there.
We will.
We sure will.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is how you know it's from the goodness of my heart. We don't need money in return. GT's does it for me. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. 25 years of authentic kombucha. And this is the golden pineapple. I don't know if I said that already. But this is sickening. It's my first time trying it. I usually get the gingerade or
the Mystic Mango does it for me every time.
Mystic Mango is good too.
Yeah, that one does. All right, so we are about to introduce our second guest. This is second guest for social justice. No, third, because we had 2 on the first part for this. But we are entering part 2 for our social justice subtopic. And we have another very special opinionated person today, a VSOP, because we love to drink. Yes. Very special. Okay. We have someone who's near and dear to my heart, my soror, someone who I've looked to since I got in my organization, all that good shit. Brought me in, had to teach me the things I needed to know, Lord. Yeah, the Black Apple herself. I'll let her do the rest of the introduction. But Ajane Holmes, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you all?
we're making it, you know. Sorry you had to sit through that long ass intro. I don't even think we typically take that long, but
Child, I ain't sorry. Black Lives Matter.
oh my goodness. But yeah, welcome to the show. You are our third guest for the social justice subtopic, and I just, as I was thinking about people we could bring onto the show, I know you work in education. My HBCU alum, so you have a strong understanding. Just from what I've seen from you throughout the years, you are one of the perfect people to bring on to talk about, I don't know, some of the things that are plaguing the Black community as well as plaguing us in life right now. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the people.
First of all, thank you all for having me on here. I feel honored to even be considered for this. It may not mean much to you all for bringing me on here, but it means a lot to me. As you all have already said, my name is Ajane Holmes. My Instagram is at Dr. Holmes _ because I am at Columbia right now getting my PhD in education policy. So we're going to talk about it. I am also the founder and creator of what is presently known as the Black Apple. Some changes are coming there as well, so look forward to that. And overall, my mission is just to educate the people, specifically the Black and Brown people who have been left out of the mainstream culture in education, and to bring the knowledge that I have been so privileged to gain in different spaces at the university, now at an Ivy League university, back to my people. That's my mission. I'm here to get everything that I can to bring it back to my people. So again, thank you all for having me, and let's get it popping.
Yeah, I mean, you were making faces when we were talking about the Attorney General and Tory and all that other stuff. So, I mean, what's your take on some of that stuff? Because you couldn't talk during that time, but you're introduced now. So let them have it. Let them have it, because I know you did.
So where do I start? Oh my God. There's a lot going on. Let's just say that. First things first, there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on in the Western Hemisphere. There's a lot going on in the world. And there is a lot going on in the Black community. Tory, I had hope. I really did. I really had hope because I think it was last year around this time, I saw him in concert and I was just like, yes, like I can really get into this. Like, you are a great performer. I love your songs. And then he came into 2020 with the same intentions that COVID came into 2020 with. Like, to mess it up. I came here to mess it up, for the lack of better terms. But overall, in listening to you all discuss it earlier, I did take the same approach. I like to know what it is that I'm talking about. I don't know. I don't know what he did. I don't know. I seriously just don't know. As a Black woman, I'm always going to stand with my Black women, especially when they say that someone has committed a crime against them, because our voices are not heard enough, our voices are not believed enough, and you literally have to go through hell and high water to get people to believe that you are in some type of pain, even within the medical system, going to the hospital, going to the gynecologist, doing any of that. Like, you really have to beg and plead for people to believe that you are in a certain amount of pain. So I really try to stand with my sisters when it comes to them voicing their thoughts and experiences. And Tory, as you all said before, if the image of the Black man were one where it is expected that we are going to be treated a certain way, or it is expected that Black men carry themselves or act in a certain way, then there would have been more, I feel like, space for people to be understanding and listening on both sides. But we see that that's not the case. And that's not to blame Black men in totality for the image that has been placed upon them, because we know that this image is one that followed them through the transatlantic slave trade and is one that continues to follow them. So it's not just that Black men are just out here acting crazy and doing crazy things, because that's not the case. We know that there are some there are some great, outstanding Black men out there. And then there are Black men who, like Tori, you just put too much guac on your chip, love. You got a little mini round chip, but you scooping. You got a lot of dip on your chip. And you just need to knock some of that dip off. So
Yeah.
I really hope that there is a resolve. I don't appreciate him dropping a project to profit off of someone else's trauma, but I, again, hope there is some type of resolve there, because we have enough going on within our community.
Yeah. I feel that because I have this constant if we can sort of just speak on this a little bit, because I think this is one of the things that sort of leads into social justice. But when it comes to, because I think us as Black people, especially now, we're in the space of holding people accountable. When it comes to, because I mean, we've had a lot of Black figures just in the past years, prominent Black figures, be convicted of some fucked up shit. R. Kelly, musical genius, in my opinion. Like, I mean, our mamas and shit was stepping in the name of love. So, I mean, Bill Cosby, we grew up watching Bill Cosby and really sort of building like our moral compass off of some of the lessons that he was implementing on that show. And now we have, I mean, Chris Brown, Tory Lanez, like people who we were like, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Yeah, folks who identify with.
You know,
or so we thought we did.
It's almost a conversation, because I have this, like, do we separate the artist from the person, or do we separate the craft from the person? Because even for me, like, I was really hurt when Bill Cosby got caught up, and to somewhat R. Kelly, because like R. Kelly had a gospel album that I religiously went to that helped me pull through. Like, I felt the Lord himself come through. Bill Cosby, some of the lessons that he instilled, like, I still think back on some of the episodes, you know? So it's like, when we talk about cancel culture, I don't know, what does that look like for y'all when it comes to just navigating some of these issues on a day-to-day basis? Because I find it very hard for me to just be like, I'm done with them. I'm canceling. I don't fuck with what they did, but I'm just not going to fuck with them. Like, I struggle with that, especially with so much hate being directed towards us. Like, I just can't not fuck with a Black person, you know? Y'all feel me? I don't know. Thoughts?
I feel that way about Black women.
That's, yeah.
Because, like, everybody says what they say about Azealia Banks, but Azealia Banks, we had her beats.
They do. They hit.
And hit. Like 212, and I be lit as shit. But she is so problematic. She said some extremely problematic things about her own community, about, like, it's just ridiculous. But she's somebody that I would differentiate a lot with Black women. I would be like, okay, this is their craft, not necessarily who they are. Now with Black men, I don't know. There's a double standard there for sure that I guess I need to work through personally. But I just don't have the same remorse. Like, when everything was coming out with R. Kelly, first off, I tend to see straight through that shit sometimes.
Right.
And I'm also very well aware of positioning. Like, Black women aren't necessarily given the same positioning as Black men. Like, I feel like in some cases, and this is not always the case, but I feel like, and I've told you this, in certain situations, I feel like if I have some men in my life, if they weren't Black, or if they weren't Black and queer, they would probably be white conservatives and or Republicans.
Right.
And I mean, not to say there's anything wrong. I'll say conservatives. I think that's the better word. Because there's nothing wrong. Oh God! Like, I'm just not in political spaces, honey.
That's what we were hinting at with the Attorney General. Like,
right. I mean, girl, get how you live, vote how you want to vote. Period. I just understand those things a little bit differently. So like, I don't know what Azealia
Right.
Banks has been through, but she's a dark-skinned Black woman. Um, and for what it's worth, I give her a little bit more of a pass than I would like a privileged man like
Mhm.
R. Kelly and Bill Cosby, who basically used women
Right.
and is the reason why they're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little different than saying problematic shit because people treat you like
Right.
shit.
Right.
Like, they actually did things that were just complete. And I mean, Azalea has been done things too, but I think it's just a little different for me.
Right.
And so, like, when everything was happening with R. Kelly, I was like, damn, I Believe I Can Fly is a good song, but you're a womanizer and you're doing all these things and it's proven.
Right.
But in another realm, like with Chris Brown, I love Chris's music.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it's really weird. I think I tap into a deeper level of understanding when it comes to these things because I'm really huge on energy.
Right.
And I think
He did his time.
yeah, but I mean, yeah.
Well, he's still angry, but
he is still angry, but it's like certain things, like the whole situation happened where basically the LAPD was trying to like raid his home because of something that
really?
somebody said.
really.
Ajane, do you remember that situation?
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a drug bust
Really?
or something, and it was because of hearsay. Like somebody said that Chris had the stuff in his house and he didn't. And basically, like they had helicopters, there was a barricade outside of his home, a police barricade outside of his home, and they didn't have a warrant. So it's not like they could come in and barge in, but they were basically trying to get him, like
and it was
communicating
an
through him.
escalated situation
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. But it's
Jesus
because
Christ.
I'm sure it's because people feel as if they can come into his life and just completely destroy that.
Right.
His peace for what it's worth. And so I think it's based off the situation for me.
Right.
Bill Cosby was I was like, you know what? I don't even watch Fat Albert no more and the Cosby Show. I don't even know what
Just
to
walk
stream
away.
it.
Right.
So bye. Like, sorry. Felicia Rashad is my girl though, so she had nothing to do with that. Just so you know, Felicia Rashad. Woo. And then R. Kelly, that was just a really unfortunate. That was so unfortunate. It was really hard for me to break away. But like when I hear things like that, it's just an instant
Right.
thing. But I think another thing is, this is another thing. I think cancel culture is very it is very quick to cancel or to try to cancel Black women over Black men. I think people find it really hard to cancel the Bill Cosbys and the R. Kellys than they do the Chrisette Michelles and trying to think about another. Chrisette Michelle is the one that comes out the most because she performed at Trump's inauguration.
Did she really?
Yeah, or Trump something inauguration ball or something like that.
I didn't even watch that shit. I don't even know.
But they were talking about it. And she was like, "I just saw it as a gig, right?" Now,
No.
but I mean, but you see how you were able to say no, but R. Kelly was raping all these women, and people still trying to
right.
step in the name of love.
But I don't
be trapped in closets.
And that's real. I'll take that. And it's not that because I think it's about impact for me too. Because I'm not knocking like Azealia Banks or Chrisette Michelle, and I think it just happens to be like I was listing out these men, which probably proves the point within itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just thinking about the impact more so. Like these are people, prominent Black people who had this type of impact, and it was a positive impact, even though they were doing this fucked up shit. They had a positive impact on. They also had a negative, which probably outweighs the positive. But at the end of the day, there was still some good coming from their craft. Not necessarily their actions, but their craft.
But was it really good if they were using their craft as
to fuel? Yep, there you go.
And I think another thing is, and Ajane, feel free to come in because I know we
that
just
did it.
talking.
That did it for me.
But it's like it's when you think of the media, when you think of Black folk, right?
Mm-hmm.
First off, America is still a young country, but where our positioning as Black people in present day, it's like we don't have the same references that white people do to certain things.
Right.
Like, so Bill Cosby was like he was the prime black
Right.
dad on television.
Right.
Right. And then, we didn't give Carl Winslow and even Uncle Phil, like we gave them accolades, but we didn't give them nearly as much as we gave Bill Cosby.
And they weren't problematic.
Right. And it's always
it's
always like that one, we have to leech onto that one black person. Like our culture does this a lot. It's like, oh, there can't be like, and it's Beyonce. There can't be,
Rihanna, Beyonce, all of these
right, all these people can't coexist and reign together. Like it has to be one person.
That's why I reposted. I think you posted a picture on Instagram with Nicki, Ree, and Beyonce because I have equal respect for all of them.
Same.
Like I see that. I think where it stems from, and I think I'm more so like the way I'm talking right now, because in no way, shape, or form am I accepting the behavior. It's not appropriate, and they should get what they get that's coming for them. And I think a part of it too is I think the black man is under attack. Everybody's under attack, but I think the energy has definitely shifted where black men are just taking that heat right now. And I've struggled for just me being candid right now. Ajane, we're very candid on this show and we're very open about how we feel. I mean, I've talked to you, Carlton. I feel like there's a lot of quality black men out there and there's a lot of black men who aren't problematic. And I don't care about the accountability. We need to have accountability. It's when you start generalizing and you treat all black men like this thing. That's the problematic thing for me. And I feel like a lot of it comes from black women. Because on the opposite side of the coin of black women being problematic, and we're going to reel this back into social justice. I think it's all related because these are sort of things that are coming out in response to some of the pressures that we're feeling. But I feel like a lot of black women for centuries at this point have reinforced the rhetoric and some of the behaviors that black men protrude, and that's where I'm for everybody being accountable in situations. I understand that women don't necessarily always have the power to, but sometimes I think definitely in 2020 today, people are listening, and we don't need to like a lot of black women are streaming the goddamn album. Like I find that just as problematic because it continues the cycle. At what point, who's going to stop the cycle? We can't sit and say like, well, it's on you and it's on you and it's on you. No, it's on all of us. I think that's the energy that I take sometimes. That's when I get defensive about, us just tearing down what these people did. I think that's why I get so defensive because it's accountability on all aspects. It was black people all up and down Bill Cosby set, but did anybody say anything? It doesn't just fall on those people, So,
Ajane, what did you think?
Right, we're just.
First of all, I like as you all were speaking, I'm just so many things are just coming in my mind. But one thing that really sticks with me is this culture of division. Prior to even speaking about this culture of division, speaking on cancel culture, for me personally, canceling is easy. But that's also a result of my upbringing. I don't necessarily identify as someone who is extremely attached to people and things, especially if they don't directly benefit me. And again, that's just like coming from my upbringing, me not being that connected with my family until like later in my life. So for me, when I hear something, see something, and I can put facts with it to prove whatever it is that happened, then it's like, okay, cool. Like it's a wrap, it's done. For instance, this guy, a person who I thought was a great friend, a great person in business. I had yet to do business with him, but we were talking about doing business together. But the other day, he got on Instagram after Tory released his album and basically made a rant and started the rant by saying, PSA to black women, stop being some little bitches. And as soon as that happened, It's just
Yeah, it was that.
you gotta go. I don't care what else you have to say. And like, granted, I sat there and listened to whatever else it was that he had to say because I felt like, okay, if I am someone who is associated with you, I need to call you out on your shit. And then I need to let you know that I can no longer associate with you because not only did you say this, but you said it on a public platform. You are someone who is pretty well known around different circles in Atlanta. You're someone who could have potentially been a business partner for me. And if this is your ideology, what does that say about how you feel about me? And going
Right.
to what you all have already spoken about is like, I think Carlton said it, when Black women do not have the same power or position as Black men. Granted, as a whole, we are under attack. But one thing that I noticed with those men who get this power, get this fame, and then go off and do crazy stuff and then have all this shit around them is that their aspirations are not necessarily aligned with, okay, I'm going to go out here, make this money, and bring resources back to my community, bring resources back to people that look like me. Their ideology and driving force is, I want proximity to whiteness.
Yep.
Get money
Yep.
so that
There
I
you go.
can get close proximity to whiteness. I will never be white, but I want to get as close as possible to whiteness as I can so that I can do whatever it is that I want. And I literally was just talking about that on Instagram the other day. Angela Davis made a tweet earlier in the year and basically was saying that when Black women are fighting for equality and equity, it's totally different from when Black men and white women fight for equality and equity, because their ideas of equality is synonymous to having access to the power that white men have. And it's just when you want the same power that white men have, you are inevitably saying, I want to be in domination over a subgroup. There needs to be a subgroup under me that I can oppress so that I can have this sense of power. If I get these resources and get this money and I become friends with all of these white men, not to say that there is anything wrong with all white men or all white people, but the general idea of whiteness in the Western culture, whiteness has always reigned supreme. Whiteness has always been the standard for everyone to look to, for everyone to guard themselves against, for everyone to check off their boxes on their list of things I need to be in this life to be successful. And that's I feel like a lot of our people are led astray because we want nice things. We say we want luxury. We say we want to live a better life. We say we want to have all these different things, but it's just like, what is your motivation behind getting those things? Is your motivation being able to inspire people who look like you, being able to help people come up who look like you? Or is your motivation simply so I can be as close to whiteness as possible and live this lavish life without regard? And one thing that I believe that happens with that mindset is you have people who they feel like it's so hard to let go of people when they do things that are unforgivable. It's essentially like, granted, people forgive how they forgive, but forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that I have to support whatever it is that you're doing because that doesn't align with my morals or whatever. But I do believe that when it comes to that aspect of cancel culture, that kind of weaves in and out. And another thing, this culture of divisiveness, generalizing Black women, generalizing Black men, that's something that it hurts us more than it helps us, because that it leaves room for doubt, it leaves room for mistrust. And when there is doubt and when there is mistrust, there is no such thing as community. And me working in schools and working with the communities that I've worked in, I've only worked in schools where the student population is predominantly Black and brown. The last school that I worked at, 99% of the students identify as being Black or African American. And one thing that I learned from my kids is if they don't trust me, there is no sense of community in our classroom. Like they don't want to do what it is that I need them to do. They don't want to compromise. They don't want to hear me out. And then in turn, me as a teacher, it's like, okay, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. So when you ask me to do something, I'm going to give you that same energy back. And I feel like that plays out on a large scale within the Black community.
Right.
It's basically the same thing. I've learned so much from working with kids, because one thing that I've come to understand and realize is that our age, like it gets higher, but essentially we are all grown kids. Whatever we have attached ourselves to in our upbringing in our childhood, until you like deal with it, and most of us we don't, it just grows with you. So you just become this adult with these same childhood thoughts, these same patterns, and
Right.
it just leads to a lot of not unnecessary, because it's good to learn.
Shit.
Yes, a lot of shit that we, especially in 2020, don't need. In regard
Yeah.
to the Black community in 2020 and education, it is challenging. It is very challenging. And
I'm sure, especially with COVID just out here fucking shit up for
COVIDing.
everybody.
yes,
Yeah, I do have a. Did you want to speak on that? Because I think both of us may have had like a couple of questions.
we can, yeah. You can go.
Okay. Well, just based on because you hit on something very important, and two things I grasped from it: this idea of achieving whiteness, and to me, it speaks on some of the things that we're trying, some of the things that we implement at home, and when it comes to the Black family and all that other stuff. So with you working in education, how do you, like, what are some things you do to sort of combat? I mean, you spoke on it just a little bit, but I mean, what's your everyday life in the classroom to combat some of this rhetoric, especially working in demographics that are primarily Black? Because I mean, in some of our other subtopics like religion, we've talked about how things like religion sort of reinforce these negative behaviors that we're looking to count or cut down. And a lot of it is done at a young age. You work in K through 12, like they spend most of their time with you. So like, what does your advocacy look like in the classroom?
So the first thing that I always say to people in any space, whether I am in front of my students, whether I'm in front of administration, whether I am participating in my own studies in higher ed, is that I allow my students to talk how it is that they want to talk in my classroom. Because there are going to be moments where I am not speaking proper English, and that's just what it is. That in my home, I don't speak proper English. And for me, language is so strong and so important, and it allows us to feel a sense of connectedness. And I'll speak to my transition here to New York and Columbia for a little bit. My first day of class, I was so nervous. I went to the gym. That's like how I calm my nerves. I went to the gym. I was eating vegetables and fruit all day. I'm just like, I need to get my life together. This is my first day of class. And although it's virtual, I was just still like, oh my goodness, like I'm in this space with all these white people, and I haven't had to be in a space where I'm not the majority in a long time, not since my K through 12 years. So I was just so anxious and so worried, and I fixed my face up, did my hair, put on nice clothes, and I was just so just so much anxiousness. And I got into the virtual classroom, and I see people who don't look like me in bed doing class, hanging out, stretching, doing everything else. And I'm just like, man, like I'm really bugging out right now for no reason. But that also comes with what is typically expected of us when we are in the education setting. The expectations that are placed on our Black students are totally different from the expectations that are placed on any other group of students, whether they are a minority group or not. One thing that I noticed when I was working in DC at a school is that they will be so quick to correct first grade students, about their grammar and how they were speaking and how loud or how soft they were talking, or just different mannerisms that are honestly a part of our culture. If I see someone that I'm linking with, I'm relating with, it's kind of like, "What girl?" Right. It's exactly what we do when we see our homegirl, or if we hear a song and they do these things called dance breaks to give kids a break in the middle of the day or during different parts of the day. And if I hear a song that come on and you telling me that this is my break, I can get up and move. Yes, I'm gonna be out here, hey, pointing my fingers and dancing because you have told me that I can have this opportunity. And I feel like in the education system here in the US, there are so many constraints on what our kids can do. There are so many limitations on who they can be. There are so many rules and guidelines as to how they can express themselves in that space. So my biggest thing is language. If you can speak to me and you feel comfortable speaking to me in whatever way it is that you're speaking to me, I don't expect to have any challenges with you as far as like behaviors go throughout the entire school year, because we have already established that in this classroom, yes, there are things that my teacher wants me to learn, but also she appreciates who I am, who I was before I met her, who I am before I come into this building every day. And I feel like language, I say language over and over and over because that's how we communicate. And working in special education and having some students who have challenges with speaking, what message are you sending to them when they cannot control how the words come out of their mouth because they have some speech disability or they have some intellectual disability? What are you saying to them? And even students who are not in special education, what are you saying to them about how their parents talk? Because if they're saying, if you're telling them, oh, you can't talk like this in this space, that's not how we talk here, that's not how we conduct ourselves here. If you're going to be in this space, then you have to do X, Y, and Z. What idea are you setting up in their mind about the people that they see at home when they leave this space? Who may like that, who may act like that, who may present themselves in an outspoken way? What are you telling them about that? So language is my number one. And number two is simply just making room for their cultures to exist within the learning environment. And that look many different ways, but my favorite is during work time, turning on music that is popping right now, hip hop, R&B, whatever it is, that they know it while they're doing work. You can bop your head to your music. You can hum a little bit as long as you're not disturbing nobody beside you. But it's like, I wanted to feel like a space where they not only exist, but they are a part of a community. In this space, I am a whole person. I'm 6 years old, but I'm a whole person. Miss Holmes knows that I like Drake. So in the playlist that she got planned for us while we doing independent work, my song, I know my song coming up next. And that's because Miss Holmes put that song in there for me because she recognizes me as a person before I am a student who has to produce some type of grade or standard for her to be measured on. So language
and I think
and bringing the culture in.
Yeah, I think that sounds very much like our experience in high school and just growing up. In Decatur, like I think that's why we have a little bit of decorum about ourselves, and we're able to talk in some of these spaces because we had educators who made us feel comfortable. I mean, granted, we still dealt with some bullshit at the school, but I think growing up where we grew up, I think the educators, especially our music educators, did a really good job of making us feel comfortable, not only in our space, but being ourselves in other spaces. Because, I mean, you know, we perform Carnegie Hall, Macy's, Rose Bowl Parade, like traditionally white spaces. I mean, Lincoln Hall for myself, and even playing with symphonies who were historically white. Like I was very much myself. Like I'm not gonna say I was a real nigga but I was essentially myself, my dread-headed Black self in these spaces, and I was comfortable in that. But do you have anything before I keep going? Because I'm
no. So for me, same. And it's funny because I oftentimes have to remind my mother that my upbringing, and I actually I'm just so grateful that my parents ended up where they did, because to growing up, I didn't realize that DeKalb County positioned itself as like one of the wealthiest Black counties
Mm-hmm.
in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, thinking back on it, I see, like, I grew up around Black excellence, and I have friends, Black friends, who didn't go to predominantly Black schools.
Mm-hmm.
My elementary school was a theme school, Edward L. Bowie Elementary School. It was named after a Black man, a very educated Black man. Narvie J. Harris is another one.
Right.
And it was a few theme schools throughout DeKalb County that just highlighted Black excellence. And they were, you know, it was a school that you had to do a lot. You know, you had to have certain test scores, and there was a lottery for it, so everybody couldn't go to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had like Chapel Hill, which blended like the residential population with like the magnet programs, the higher ed programs, the gifted programs. And then you had magnet schools. And so I ended up going to Brownsville after I went to Bowie for a year to transition into that magnet space. And then you had schools like Southwest DeKalb, where, you know, Southwest DeKalb produces Black athletes. They produce Black musicians, Black talent, Black scholars
Mm-hmm.
across the board. And so that's where I am, and that's where I've always been. Like, my understanding of Blackness and success has been aligned with, like, my understanding of success has been aligned with my Blackness.
Yeah.
And so I refuse to go into a white space and act white, because that's just not me. I'm not a white person, and I don't want to be a white person. Like, I love being Black. And for what it's worth, I also love other parts of me, like the fact that I'm gay and homosexual. Like, I fuck with that heavy, and I bring that into every space that I'm in, whether or not people want to appreciate it or accept it or recognize it or whatever.
Right.
And I think my upbringing, but like my parents both grew up in South Georgia, grew up around white people. I didn't grow up around white people, but because I knew myself and I knew success, I knew white people existed. Of course, it wasn't like, oh my God, a white person. Like, I was able to go into these spaces and navigate myself accordingly because of my upbringing and because of the places that we were in.
Right.
And so I think it's beautiful that you explore that rhetoric in your classroom, Ajane, with being able to say, because language is huge. I literally took a class and I laughed. Like, it's crazy because when you're thinking about these things and it's being told to you,
that shit don't
for the
make
first
sense.
time, it's like, girl, shut up. Like, you overthinking it. But it's not. Like, language is a social construct, just like a lot of things. And like grammar, these rules, all this shit. But it's crazy because you think about expressions. You can have a whole conversation with somebody that speaks a different language with you, just for the simple fact that you're human.
Right.
Laughing is laughing no matter what. You know when something got to be funny. If you see somebody buckled over laughing, kicking ha-ha, and you know somebody's sad, if you see, you know, they appear somber, they have a tear in their eye, like those things that's emotional, like that's a natural thing. Language is learned, culture is learned, and I love the fact that you're just like, speak how you speak. My mother is an attorney, and she make up words every day. I make up words. I'm infamous for it. I will mispronounce the shit out of a word, and nobody will correct me because literally it's surrounded by other words and by other vernacular that makes sense. But it's that idea of self-awareness and knowing how to navigate through certain spaces, because language can be like language barriers. We say that word language barrier. Yeah. And I think that's so insulting, especially in a country like America, where we're a melting pot of different cultures. Yeah. For you to say or to do or to treat somebody differently because they don't communicate the same way that you do. That's not fair. And so for you to be educated, educators are like amazing. I
don't know how y'all do it, because
I don't either.
Baby.
Because y'all are y'all are forming and literally building the future. And Whitney Houston said it best. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way, honey.
Amen.
And so educators do that, right? And I feel like me growing up with the educators that I've had and spending a significant amount of time, 7 to 8 hours a day with these people.
We got comfortable.
Extremely
Extremely comfortable.
But it was up to them to develop
Allow us
that
in
space.
Right.
Because at Brown's Mill, we had our dance. It was the same shit all the time, though. We did the Cha-Cha Slide and Just Fine by Mary J. Blige. and, and we'd be up chest, five, ooh, like just lit. And it's early in the morning, it's 7 o'clock, so they do it to get us up.
Right.
But they were playing, they were
I didn't
playing
even
music
realize
that our
that.
parents were listening to. But
Yeah.
for what it's worth, at that moment, I felt that I didn't feel so constricted.
Yeah.
And I think when Black kids grow up in predominantly white spaces going to school, it's like you're the only Black kid. You need to act right, or you need to get we're in this area because
Right.
We did what he had to do. So act like you got some sense type
Right.
of ordeal. And I just think it's important for kids, especially in an educational environment, to feel like themselves, because that's how you achieve scholarship.
Right.
By being able to dive deep into doctrine and there are certain disciplines and really figure out how your existence,
Right.
how you exist in all of that.
Right. Because where my head is now, and I'm glad I have you on here, Ajane, because last season we actually we brought a diverse group of people, some of our friends, and Keon, our frat brother, to talk about, essentially we had an HBCU versus PWI battle. And it wasn't even a battle, but we were just having conversations. We were having conversations about the differences in our experiences.
And talking about we were addressing.
Yeah, we were addressing the whole
HBCU PWI battle.
The whole versus ideology. With you being an HBCU alum, a Spelman alum, Spelmanite, Columbia for PhD. And where did you go for your master's by chance?
University of Illinois.
All right. So I think you have a very diverse education experience. And me and Carlton were fortunate enough where we always knew, our band director, he was a FAMU grad, pretty much all of the music educators, FAMU, Tennessee State, our teachers, we were exposed to a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And we were also exposed to PWIs and what the education is like there.
Right.
And even our parents, we made very informed decision when it came to, all right, what's the best option for you in the next step in your education?
Yep.
Going back to that whole community and creating this atmosphere of all right, so you can go here, you can go here, you can go here. They may not give you money, but they may give you money, but here's the resources there. We made very informed decisions. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like we lost touch with who we are and our identities based on where we went to school. But you have a lot of people, a lot of kids of color who do lose that and don't have the proper sort of information when making their decisions. So what is your sort of, I guess, how do you coach students up getting ready for that next step after they essentially leave you? What are the fast tips, what do you give the students?
I feel like the first thing that I give my students, so I am trained in elementary, but I also have students that I still keep in contact with that are in middle school. Some of them have met me through different ways in the KIPP BC network. Some in high school. And the first thing that I can say that I truly give my students is myself. And not myself that sat in professional development for 8 hours every day for 2 weeks over the summer and came back with all of these teacher strategies and ideas for me to get your attention and to make you be silent in my room and all that stuff. But the me that is Ajane Holmes from the 912, from Coffee County, from South Georgia.
Stop it.
Yes.
Douglas girl.
I thought you know Douglas.
I didn't make the connection. Y'all may have Ken.
We probably do.
Y'all may have Ken.
My daddy's side is from Douglas. With the Coffee County High Trojans.
That
hmm
is us.
I didn't even make that connection. I don't know why I didn't make that
You know what?
connection.
I saw it in your bio. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Come on, girl. You better not want to.
But I give them my authentic self, and in giving them my authentic self, I allow them to see that I am a human just like they are humans. And speaking on humans and humanity, that is something that has been stripped away from the Black community. We were not seen as humans when we were brought here. And till this day, we are still not regarded as being humans. We are regarded as, oh, walking brown bodies, or just property that exists and walks and breathes and talks and laughs and has all the emotions and experiences of a human, but not necessarily human. And I feel like giving them that human side of me allows them to also reciprocate that. And as you all said, like being able to take what I'm getting from my teacher and to use it as transferable knowledge, so that if I go to a PWI, I'm still comfortable in being myself. If I go to a HBCU, I'm still comfortable in being myself. For me, growing up in Coffee County, Coffee High was a diverse high school, quote unquote. But I was an honor student, so I was in all honors classes. And to be very, very, very transparent, the most that I saw my Black peers was at lunch, or when I was in my band class, because I was in band.
Come on, Dan.
Yes, I played the alto saxophone, and I was on a dance line.
Oh, Woodland.
But that was the most that I saw my Black peers. In any other space, I was in spaces where there were two other people who looked like me in those spaces. And I adapted to that because I felt like me being the only Black person was the norm. Like, oh, well, I'm just in this space and I've been in this space since elementary, so this is nothing new. This is the norm. Then I went to Spelman and I'm just like, oh, damn. It's a lot of smart Black people here. Like,
Yes.
that's literally how I felt. I'm just like, man, like, it's Black women everywhere and they all smart and they know stuff and they talk in different ways and they come from different walks of life. And then I joined Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and I met other people outside of the AUC, and it's just like, oh my God, there are even more Black people who are just like me, who are like-minded. And I feel like that's something that can cripple a young student at an early age when they don't feel like it is the norm for them to be in these spaces and to be high achieving and to be someone who is successful, and not successful in regards to the traditional standard. Oh, I make all A's, I make this, I make that. Anybody can make all A's, to be honest, especially in the Coffee County school system. Anybody can make all A's. It's memory and kissing ass, honestly. But for them to feel like they can go into any space and be successful, I feel like that's one thing that I didn't learn how to do until I got to Spelman, because I was now surrounded by more Black women who knew just as much, if not more, than I did. So being in that space taught me that there are other people out there who are just like you, who have similar experiences to you. And going back to me growing up in Coffee County, I didn't have that many Black homegirls because I was always caught in between being a privileged Black girl in Coffee County and also trying to exert my Blackness or prove my Blackness in different spaces, or trying to tone my Blackness down when I was with my other group of, I wouldn't even call them peers, because now that I know what I know, there were so many things that were so problematic about the relationships that I had with my white friends at Coffee High, unexplainable. But I feel like when it comes to that PWI and HBCU conversation, there is a wealth of knowledge to be learned in any space that you go into. It's up to you to decide what you're going to take away from that space. Me being here in New York, away from all of my family, I don't have family here. Most of my friends are scattered out across the U.S. So it's like I came here on my own, but I came here with a mission. I came here with a vision. I came here with the intent to take whatever it is that I can from this space and to be able to bring it back to any community that I serve in. So if I were to go and move to Colorado, whatever community I'm serving in, I'm taking that knowledge with me. If I go back to Coffee County, I'm taking that knowledge with me. And I feel like a lot of times people get caught up in what they would assume would be the stereotype of a Black person going to a PWI. Oh, you going to a PWI, you think you this, you think you that. But
Right.
I have seen so many HBCU alum who identify, and they may not blatantly say they identify, but the way they carry themselves, the way they act, the way they respond to things, identify as the model Negro, as W.E.B. Du Bois would talk about. This person who carries themselves upright and always dresses a certain way and always has their hair done and always look the part and always speaks with proper English and isn't loud and isn't all these things that are associated stereotypically with being Black. There have been so many people who have graduated from HBCUs who walk in the light of that model Negro, and they fail to understand and realize that a lot of what you are associating as ideal characteristics with yourself, or identifying yourself as being this different type of Black, that's what I like to call it, because those people, to me, I feel like they just come off as, oh, like I'm Black, but I'm a different type of Black. You're aligning yourself with values that have been placed on your people by white standards and whiteness. And not to say that we can't speak proper English, not to say that we can't be educated, not to say that we can't dress nice and that we don't deserve luxury and that we don't deserve to have wealth and financial stability. But you can do all of that and still be true to who you are. I have a post on my Instagram, and it's me sitting on my bed eating hot Cheetos. And I literally tell people all the time, like, I am that person that loves hot chips. I love Gatorade. I love listening to ratchet music. Right now, I am stuck on Sukihana. Nobody ever told me that Suki was out there and she was just waiting on me to listen to her. Everybody knows about Suki, and I didn't know about Suki until like 2 weeks ago. And I'm just perplexed as to why I didn't know. But I tell people that you can take all of yourself into these spaces, because what we have been conditioned to do as a people is to take some of ourselves into these spaces, change who we are to fit in these spaces. And what we have to start doing, and this is also, in my opinion, a part of advocacy, is demanding that I be considered whole however I walk into this space. So if I walk into this space with my hair, my locks in a bun, my glasses on, and I'm talking how I'm talking to y'all right now, I should still be considered a whole human. I shouldn't have to go and put on a dress and pantyhose and heels for whatever it is. Now, granted, there are spaces that you go into where there are guidelines on how you dress and how you do whatever it is that you do. But I don't want the students that I encounter to feel like that is a mandatory thing and that is the only thing that they can do in this life, or that's the only way of living that is going to allow them to be successful. You can take all of yourself wherever you go. It's up to you to demand them to accept all of who you are, or you just decide, hey, this is not the place for me. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, so what can we do to keep you here when you start talking about leaving? And that's something that I had to come to grips with, even just recently, with leaving the classroom, leaving teaching for a myriad of reasons. But one being that I did not feel like I could be my true self, my true teacher self in that space. And it's like I compromised for a full year of dealing with a lot of bullshit. And I got to my last year, this 2019-2020 school year. I was just like, I gotta make a change. Like I gotta do something, because I have already compromised too much. And when you start compromising, that's when people start figuring out, oh, I can do this and get away with that when it comes to this person, or I can go and say that this is what it is, even though it's really not. And they just get you in this almost like they are the potter and you're like some clay. They just mold you how they want you to,
Mm-hmm.
although
Yep.
that may not be what it is that you want. So when I decided to leave the classroom, I was just like, yes, this is what's happening. Y'all see that this is happening. No one is responding to this happening to me as a Black woman in this school, because these things have happened to other teachers and there has been some resolve. But because I'm a Black woman, and the principal that I had at the time literally said to me when I was asking for help, you don't really need help. I've seen you do a lot of things at one time before. So we can do this again. Like, I can help you figure out how you can do it, but you don't need help. Who are you to tell me that I don't need help when I'm asking for help?
Right.
That-
Right.
so when I said
Mm.
I was leaving, she was just like, "Are you serious?" I'm dead ass.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. Like, I can't do this. And then that's when people start coming back and being like, oh, well, what about this? Or we can give you this, we can give you that. Whereas had
Yeah.
I made them accept my whole self from the beginning, they would have had the opportunity at the beginning to see, okay, either this is a person that we want on our team, or this is a person that we don't want on our team. But I wouldn't have had to go through 3 years of this emotional entanglement stuff had I just taken and felt comfortable taking my whole self into whatever space I was going into. And that's why I truly encourage all educators from any walk of life, any race, creed, religion, whatever, to not only take all of themselves into that space, but to allow that opportunity to be reciprocated from their students, to allow them to be their full selves, because I didn't have that educational experience. So you got me coming from Spelman to University of Illinois, now back at Columbia, having not been in a predominantly white space in forever. And I'm shook. I'm just like, dang, like, I'm about to be in a predominantly white space again. Well, what do I do? How do I act? And it's just like, I know how I act, but that shouldn't even be a prerequisite for me coming
Right.
here. It should just be, I'm meant to be here. I was selected. Y'all chose me. I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm here. I've shown up.
Right.
So
Yeah, just to build on that and to bring it full circle, and I hope you don't mind me, Carlton.
No, girl.
Because I get scared when he get quiet. I'll be like, "What you doing?"
I just be thinking.
I get scared. But to bring it full circle, and since this is sort of the latest thing that we've dealt with as a community when it comes to the Attorney General and his rhetoric, because come to find out after doing more research on him, and the only reason I'm using him as an example is because, like, I've dug into him at this point. Turns out he's the first Black Attorney General for Kentucky.
Of course he is.
And
That does not surprise me by any means.
I'm just like, what the fuck? For you to be, I'm just at a loss. The rhetoric is, or how he responded to Breonna Taylor's situation is one thing, but the constant rhetoric that you spit about this disconnect between identity and you being in the position that you're in, I think is so flawed. And I'm trying to figure out, because we essentially went through K through 12, the higher ed experience, grad school, whatever it may be. He's went through all of these different things. And at some point, somewhere, I'm not sure if it was early. It looked like it was his whole motherfucking life based on his Instagram page. But you can't judge nobody off their IG. But it seems like at some point, sometime, he disconnected the two. And I'm not sure. I feel my instinct is telling me that it was something in his educational experience that led to this. This idea that you gotta be inclusive of everybody, and it doesn't really matter, like, especially with going into justice, because I know there's a certain energy that lawyers, judges, politicians, like they have this certain energy where it's like you're advocating for everybody. You're not advocating for just your people. But at the same time, it's like going back to your comments on your intent and what people are doing as they move up these chains and develop these this experience in these positions. It's like, what's your intent in all of it? And that's where I get really lost with the attorney general, because I'm just like, dude, if you're the first motherfucking black man as an attorney general in the state of Kentucky and you have a case where somebody has deliberately, I don't give a fuck what the ruling was, you had an opportunity on the platform that you stood on to speak out and to advocate. And I'm baffled, and it's so hard for me because I don't want to see another black man torn down, because they about to light his ass up. They're about to light him up.
Well, it's warranted. He's not aware of himself, and I realize that's a problem. Like, it really is a problem that there's a lot of black people, especially in Generation X. I don't know how old he is, but
he's on the older side.
Yeah, so
he's on that last wave of
the folks who were raised by baby boomers. I feel like in so many ways they found, because the boomers were the ones that were dealing with civil rights,
and
like,
they covered their kids,
right? They
protected
their kids, and so they live in that, and they realized my upbringing was it was a lot going on. I'm a black person. I want to make change. I want to be in these spaces. I have to act a certain way.
Right.
Their kids are coming out and saying, no, fuck that. Because our ancestors didn't get anywhere by being comfortable. And that's been conveniently like disregarded in their comfort growing up.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say they weren't completely uncomfortable, because my mother's really quick to pull out the Rodney King riots.
Right.
But I'm like, that's one situation where y'all decided to drop y'all balls and do something about something. Where y'all are just trying to, because like I've had conversations with my mom, and she's just like, well, it's about surviving. And I'm like, well, if you shot dead tomorrow because of the system being broken,
what's the point?
What's the point?
And to interject on that, because I did this civic dinner a couple of months ago, or I think about a year ago at this point, where we talked about the differences in, because I think somebody talked about the time during segregation and like the last leg of segregation and what that looked like for them. They said I didn't have to deal with white people. I didn't have to deal with, like, everything was in one place. It was the doctors, the lawyers, the schools, everybody knew each other and they were in this place. So it wasn't even that they had to conform, because they were in the spaces all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just to interject.
Child, it's ghetto, honestly. But I think it's really important. I mean, I don't know the man. I really hate speaking on people that I do not know. I don't know him. And like you said, he could have been doing stuff.
Right.
But when you go into his social media and he's saying things that he's saying,
it's the rhetoric for me.
It's like, girl, what do you mean?
Because when he started talking about I
just love hearing Black Republicans explain themselves. I just love it, because most of the time it's just like, do you like yourself? Do you like Black people around you? Because you clearly grew up with people who probably just don't even, like, people just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you grow up in such Black positive spaces like DeKalb County. And I'm going to bring this back to coffee in a second, because I know some things. But when you grow up in very Black spaces like DeKalb County, and now in present day, I go into white spaces and I'm very Black on very purpose, because we exist.
I like that, being Black on purpose.
Our identity is it's relevant, because music, culture, Black folks written all over it. If a black person is wearing something, more than likely a month from now, if it goes viral, more than likely a month from now, some white influencer is probably going to try to blow it up to be the
Right.
next thing.
No, I see white people wearing the Adidas slide combination. You know, they
I
have
mean,
their little.
honey, it ain't nothing but a thing put on a black person and everybody's on it.
Mhm.
It's like putting something on a mannequin at in the front in the window display at Macy's. It's like, oh, okay. Or like it's really like that. Black people are so treasured in retrospect, but when it comes to like, that's probably not the right word. We're treasured like in thought and in theory,
Mhm.
but when it comes to practice, it's like the rhetoric is completely different. And so I guess my follow-up would be, because my dad, who I don't have the best relationship with, and a lot of my family still lives in Coffee County, and they're extremely close-minded. They're black folk, extremely close-minded. Not all of them, but usually the ones that aren't as close-minded somehow, some way find their way out of Coffee County. And but it, like I said, it's not everybody. But my father went to Coffee High. He played football, and then he went to Morris Brown. So he ended up at the AUC too for his undergraduate degree, and then he went on to theology school. And I kind of lost track, but he grew up in a space like his teammates, his classmates, white. I think the blackest part of his experience at Coffee was the fact that he was black and had a black daddy and a black mama and they had black kids. And so he went to Morris Brown to get that. I mean, first off, Atlanta in the 90s was like, in the 80s, it was,
Lit.
becoming the black Mecca that it was for, I mean, it still is, but
Right.
I mean, for what it's worth, Atlanta, that kind of culture came up with Atlanta because Atlanta was on a rise too. And so what was it about your space, your educational space in Coffee that motivated you to choose Spelman? Because Spelman isn't just an HBCU. Like, I mean, it is. I mean, not that it is, but it's a school.
It's the one
so I'm not
that
going
they
to
talk
put too
about.
much.
Yeah.
But like, you think of black women, you think of Spelman, and you think of Howard.
Yes.
So what made you think, as this girl who grew up in Coffee County, who was surrounded by these white peers, to come to Atlanta and like put yourself in that educational space?
I was 100% transparent. I literally went there searching for my blackness. Like I went there to look for my blackness in all actuality. I felt like I have, so my family is still, majority of them are still in Coffee County. And the freedom that I saw my girl cousins, who like none of them went on to higher ed, but like just the freedom that I saw them have, and just being able to be themselves and express themselves and to be loud and to be just heard and seen and felt. My parents are the boomers, and they try to cover me, essentially to protect me. But I feel like in trying to protect me, I didn't have a real understanding of what my blackness was and what it meant to me. I just knew that when I'm in this space, I do this. When I'm in another space, I act like this. Whereas my cousins and even my older brothers, they just had this experience of being. And I don't feel like I had that experience to be. I'm the youngest of 3 children, and I'm the only girl. So it's just like my parents were really hard on trying to protect me and to keep me in. And when you even mentioned it earlier about the boomers, I often talk to my best friend about it, and I'm like, they lived during the civil rights era, but they lived in a sweet spot. During the civil rights era, you began to see legislation, you began to see laws. And what we have been taught in the Western society is that once you see laws and legislation, hey, you need to chill out because now they about to protect you. So you just need to calm down, relax, tone it down on the protest.
It's coming.
Right.
Right.
Like we about to protect you. Now, is that true? No, because if it were, we will not still be having conversations about ending racism, about becoming anti-racist. Y'all wait until 2020 to talk about you want to be anti-racist. What have y'all been doing this whole time? Was it
Civil Rights Act?
right?
What's going on?
Understand. And I say that all the time. They were able to live in a sweet spot where they were able to see, or they thought they were seeing things changing for the better of the people. So when they began to raise their children, they began to raise them in a certain manner and way that, hey, you need to speak in a certain way. You need to tone your voice down. You need to make sure you wear this, make sure you wear that, wear your hair like this, do your hair like that, because they have given us some laws that are going to protect us. So in return, you need to compromise some of what we have identified as being a part of our culture so that you can be protected under those laws that protect who? Protect no one. Laws have never, in the US, laws have never been meant to protect people without white people being able to benefit from those laws that are said to protect. And we were, one of my classes on Wednesday, we were just having this conversation after the Breonna Taylor ruling. And the professor, she encouraged us to think, because there are people from various ages, and there are quite a few people in the class that are older that can go under that baby boomer category. And she was just like, I encourage you all to think about a moment when white people have not benefited from something that's supposed to be for Black people, for their protection, for their betterment. And when you figure out, or when you come up with an answer, let me know. And literally the whole class was just like, oh, he's spitting. Hold on.
One
Be like,
equals 2.
be like, but oh,
And 5 plus 5 equals 10.
Right.
What the fuck?
Everybody
oh my
sitting
goodness.
in class like, oh, you might be on to something. And then like
Yep.
one of the guys in the class, he brought up, he was just like, well, now we have the Black Lives Matter movement. And she was like, I just want you to think about that and come back to me next week, and then we can talk about if we really have that. And I'm just like, oh, hold on.
I love professors, bro, because they
They be with the shit.
I love professors.
And I'm just like, that is what these confines, these constraints that I talk about that we place on students in the classroom are the very confines and constraints that a lot of times have been placed on us by people who are raising us or who have raised us, because the intention is with good heart for us to be protected, for us not to have to experience the things that led up to those civil rights legislation being passed. But in the same breath, what do we give up when we put ourselves in those confines? So me going to Spelman was me honestly trying to find my Blackness and be firm and be able to be comfortable with being the Black woman that I am, being able to be comfortable in saying like, yeah, I'm a all-A student, or I graduated with my master's with a 3.8 GPA, but I also like to twerk. I also like to shake ass. I also like to pop bottles. I also like to go to the hair salon and get my locks twisted. Like, I like to be loud. I like to yell A when I'm out with my friends. Like, I like to do all of these things. And all of these things are parts of who I am. My Blackness is not monolithic. My Blackness does not have to necessarily abide by the rules and the standards of whiteness. I can be all of this and be Black and still be successful and still go into different spaces and take all of me into those spaces. When I go into a presentation or a conference, I'm speaking in a manner so that my audience can understand me. I'm not speaking in a way so that I can conform to these people who I'm talking to, or I can conform to the white standards that have been set for me. So when I switch up how I talk, just know it's not me switching up because I want to be white or I want to be in close proximity to whiteness because I feel like I have something to gain from that. I'm switching up so that you can understand me, because that's how you have been taught to understand people when giving presentations. In the same way, when I'm out in the community and at the gym, like when I switch up, I'm speaking to who I'm speaking to. I'm attracting my audience. I'm changing for my audiences. And I feel like that's something that we have not been taught. We have not been told that when you're being taught English that you don't have to drop your Ebonics. We have not been told that. It's always been for everything that you want in this westernized white society, you got to give up something. Whereas now I feel empowered for when I have children to tell them, hey, everything that I'm teaching you, everything that they're teaching you in school, it goes along with everything that you do at home. So you at home speaking and however you want to speak to me, making up words, kikiing and laughing and giggling and dancing around the house, that goes hand in hand with whatever it is that they teach you at school. You don't have to compromise it. You don't have to drop it. You don't have to change who you are. And it's funny that you asked the question about why Spelman coming from Coffee County? And to be very transparent, it shows on my transcript that I went there looking for my blackness. Being a woman who came from high school with a 4.0 GPA, number 10 in my class, and going to Spelman and graduating with a 3.0, like my parents were just like, girl, what were you doing? And I'm like, I was there looking for myself and finding myself and becoming comfortable with other Black women and becoming comfortable with being around other Black women. I feel like that's something that contributes to the attitudes and the realities of the lives of many Black women. We have not told that we can be comfortable in being homegirls with each other. We have not told that we can be comfortable in loving on each other. We have not told that we can be comfortable in saying, hey, like what you did, that was messed up. But we gonna move through that because we homegirls. I love you. I got love for you. And even as a Black community, even from men to other men, we have not been told that Black men can love on each other, that they can give each other hugs, that they can be gentle, they can be calm, they can be cool, collective, they can exert that same love to women. Like as a community, I feel like that's something that we not only have not been taught, but it's also something that we just have not taken the opportunity as a collective to say, hey, you know what? We need some more love in this bitch. It's real stiff in here.
It's real stiff.
Right.
It's
What we want to do is say stiff wear. That's what we want to say. We need to be saying stiff wear.
it's real stiff in here.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just saying, like it's real stiff in here. So we need to bring that love piece back into all of our spaces, honestly. And I feel like that's like even with the name change that's coming for the Black Apple, love is a major part of my educational experience, because when you love something, you want the best for it. You have the intention for that thing, for that person, for that system is always going to be great. You're always going to think of how can I be better for what it is that I love. And a lot of times we get educators in the education system who do not have that same perspective and view of the students and of education in itself. So you find students who encounter educators who don't care about them or who tell them, hey, like, this is just what it is. Do what you need to do to get out of here.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And Sean laughing because I say it all the time. Lead with love. It's just, oh my God. Love. Just treat it. Oh my God. It costs you nothing to be a decent person. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like me. You don't have to want to be around me. But when you are, don't make me feel as if I'm invalid.
Right.
Especially because my person knows I'm valid. And I go into every space that I'm in, and because I'm wearing these little Marley twists now, but my hair is usually out in the fro, and it's serving body, serving volume, serving 4C realness, and it's serving shea butter and fucking Manuka honey. Like, it's not I don't shy away from it. And my very coffee county daddy told me that he didn't want me growing my hair out. He wanted me to be skinhead every 2 weeks. I didn't want to be skinhead every 2 weeks because I knew that my hair had potential and I knew that there was something to stand on. There was a statement that I could make about my blackness through my hair. And there was an even further statement that I could make when I got to a point and I was like, people ask me questions. Who did your hair? Oh, I did. You? Yeah, sure did. What products you use? Because, and then it becomes the conversation once you get past that weird, like, it's not a disconnect, but like once you get past that realization that your assumption is incorrect, you can then go to, okay, let me explore more. Now that they've given me, and like I'm interested now, let me explore more. Because with all of that, you can learn. Because I went to Georgia Southern, and we can get to all of this stuff, but I went to Georgia Southern to refine my blackness. I was afraid that I had been around black people too much, and I was like, the world ain't black. I mean, the world is black, but you know what I'm saying? It's white people out here, and I'm about to get into the workspace, and I need to know how to deal with white folk.
Yeah.
And so I can't go to a white person and be like, girl, let me tell you about this project because I'm about over it, and I'm really about to throw the whole thing away. They'd be like, wait, no, Carlton, don't do that. We need, it's different. And with having conversations, and I say that to not sound a certain type of way, because I can have conversations like that with my white colleagues.
It's true.
Now, because they get me, because I've taken the time to like build up to that,
Right.
as opposed to being like, hey, I'm black. I'm black. But it's levels to it.
Yeah.
And I think when you lead with love and with an understanding and with acceptance and understanding that everybody's experience is valid, you're able to
Not be a fuck bitch.
Yeah, and to conduct yourself accordingly.
Yeah.
You ain't gotta be raggedy.
No, not at all.
You don't.
Okay, so one more thing, and to bring it home, because I was thinking about it as I have to say thank you so much, just for speaking your truth,
Amen.
because it's we get perspective every time we bring a guest on, and I'm so glad that we chose the guest list that we did, because every experience with everybody has just been beautiful, and y'all have just taught us so much. So thank you for that. But just to bring it home, this is Black, Gay, and Okay, so we got to touch on it. We've talked about being comfortable in spaces and creating spaces for students, whatever it may be, to be comfortable. Me and Carlton have been very transparent on this podcast about our experience. And it hasn't been pleasant. And a lot of our trauma when it comes to identifying the way we identify came from our educational spaces. My mom found out that I like dick because I got suspended from school from letting somebody suck my dick. So like that was a traumatizing experience for me. And
me too. I was afraid to come out of the closet.
Right.
I heard about it.
No, but it's just because even though we had a space where we were comfortable in our blackness, we weren't comfortable in all parts of our identity.
Right.
And what's fucked up about the whole thing, it was people who looked like us.
Mm-hmm.
What does what does advocacy look like for you when it comes to LGBTQ? Because I mean, we don't see a lot of those resources in school. We don't see a lot of sex education. We're not teaching girls openly about their periods. We don't even see that stuff in the church. It's a lot of stuff that is natural, and that, especially with some of the students that you've worked with in that age group, where they start experiencing certain things. And I think going back to something you said, where it's like, all right, like things are coming, or I want to be protective, or this, that, or the third, we sort of either shame. We've talked about demonic doctrine on this podcast this season. We hide behind where it's like, all right, we're conforming. I need you not to be gay in this book. I need you not to be like that because that's gonna bring more hate upon you with you already being Black. What does that look like to you? Just in some of the spaces in your experiences.
It's interesting that you say that because I have a FaceTime with one of my students after this podcast. But my student, she reached out to me before I was moving because I let them know, like, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm about to move. And she was just like, Ms. Holmes, like, I really just don't know what I'm going to do now that you're gone. And for me, before I even get into the story, that's an issue in itself. You have a whole school of teachers and you don't know what you're going to do without one person leaving. I don't take that as it being flattery because there should be more than one person in this building that you should be able to connect with. But long story short, she was able to disclose to me that she likes girls. And I feel like because I was so transparent in the beginning with meeting her and meeting other students, that transparency, it just made it more, it was almost like a level of advocacy, if you will, because they will always talk to me and be like, oh, Miss Holmes, I saw this man on Instagram. You should date him. Or Miss Holmes, we're not dating yet. You never talk about your boyfriend. I'm just like, yeah, because I don't have one. Like, I don't have one. But transparency for me is a level of advocacy, especially for students who may not have the space to express themselves and whatever identity it is that they would like to identify with or like to claim, but they feel that they can't lay claims on it because of the people around them. So the transparency and also letting students know from the beginning, nothing in here is, first of all, this is a brave space and a safe space. And a lot of times we hear people say, oh, let's have a safe space. Like, let's be safe and let's say things and like, let's just give people the room to talk. But with having a safe space, it should also be a brave space. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta grab my charger. But it should also be a brave space because in a brave space, people feel comfortable to express their true identity. They feel comfortable in telling what their experiences are because they know that, one, I'm not going to be judged. And two, the people in this space, they care about what it is that I have to say and they care about me as a whole person, regardless of whatever identity is presenting itself the most in that moment. This person understands that my identities, they intersect. They all exist at one time. So when my students understand that I exist in my fullness and my wholeness all at one time with this person, I'm comfortable in saying that I like girls, or I'm comfortable in saying that I'm afraid because I like boys. Like I have a baby that I call my son, and I think he started his freshman year this year, and he expressed the same thing to me, but he expressed this when he was in 5th grade. And that's another thing that needs to be taught in school. These feelings that kids are having in regards to their sexuality, it's natural, but they don't know enough about it to understand that it's natural. So when they express it, they don't know. They just simply don't know. And when you don't know, you're always doing certain things to figure out what is. Whereas if we allow them the opportunity to truly be who they are and to truly express themselves as they see themselves, then it makes for a better experience for them. There's not so much trauma involved with their varying identities, their intersecting identities. So I believe that transparency is a level of advocacy. Having a brave space as a teacher is a level of advocacy. And just creating that community environment within that classroom, like y'all with me for however long the school year is, 190 days. For 190 days, we're a family. So we're not arguing with each other about stuff that is senseless. And if we do have a disagreement, there's a way that we're going to talk to each other because we are a family. We're not just
Yeah.
here to learn. We're not just here to make good test scores so that our school can get money. We're here to grow together, because some of these people are going to be the ones that you may need to lean on, or they may need to lean on you, or you may have an opportunity for them that will be great for them. But because you knew them in this family space, you're like, oh, I know somebody with that. Whereas we have been conditioned to believe that we are just a caddy type people, crabs in a barrel mentality that has been pushed on us so much. Like, oh, this is just who we are, and we don't have to be that. We don't have to do that. So being open, being transparent, creating a community like feel in the classroom, and just allowing students to bring themselves and show up as their full selves with their intersecting identities.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think so too, especially for that student, because 5th, 6th grade is when they start trying to talk about sex ed. And like, I remember we were supposed to take a trip to Fernbank to talk about sex ed in 6th grade, and our trip kept getting canceled. But even if we had went, it would be a focus on heterosexual sex,
Right.
something that I wasn't going to ever apply. And so, and I mean, even in those cases, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry.
And so even like those cases where you have an LGBTQ kid trying to figure it out, all that stuff, and like you have a teacher, like, praise God, thank God for you, Ajane, for being able to be that outlet for him. But when you have teachers who are in those spaces and, you know, that have opened up that brave, that safe space for their kids, it really does. I mean, first off, it completely debunks the narrative that, you know, these kids are learning they grow into being gay, or they grow into being trans, or into
Right.
being, you know, having some type of same-sex attraction, or to finding their identity. Kids, no.
They
I
don't.
knew at 4 that I like boys. Not present day men, but at 4 I knew I like boys. I had male friends that I would explore. And I'm not saying this, I mean, I'm human.
Right.
And we forget that as humans, we're trying to make sense of the world around us, and we do that in so many different ways. And it was this rhetoric of heterosexuality, normalizing the heterosexual experience, and, you know, me having a mother and a father. But I was like, hold on, I have this attraction, and I don't know how to navigate it. And so having those spaces, especially when you're at school, just like work. You're fucking at work all this time. You're at school all this time. Oftentimes, you go to after school at the same school.
Right.
Extracurricular activities. You go to summer camp at this same school. I went to summer camp, after school, and regular school, day school, at the same school I was from kindergarten to 5th grade. Those are developmental years.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to make sense out of the world around you. You're trying to make sense. Like, that was, I was in elementary school when 9/11 happened. What else was going on? I was in elementary school during Bush administration and everything that was going
During
on
the
with
wars,
that. I
all
was in
that.
middle school when Obama was put in office.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these things, you know, I was in school, and the curriculum was like supporting, or like, it was in some way, it was choosing a side.
It helped you reinforce or debunk what you were receiving everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and on top of that, I've always been I've known myself. And so I believe having that in school is important. I think having educators that understand that is very important too.
And I will add to that. I know, like, I talk about it from my individual standpoint, but like for the people who will listen to this, especially those who are in education or know people in education, I will also say that it is very important for those teachers like myself who create these spaces to encourage their teacher friends to make those spaces, to speak up when you see teachers and administration doing things that are not conducive to having a community, or not conducive to being a safe space and a brave space for students. So many times, teachers especially, find themselves in a place where they're just like, oh, can I say this? Can I do this? Can I advocate for this? Although they see that it's negatively or adversely affecting the students, it's always a question of, can I? When it should just be like, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm going to do this. I just need to figure out how, what I need to put together or whatever it is. Yeah, they just need to be better advocates for the students that they are serving and understand and know. And I say this with strong conviction because this is something that I run into a lot with teachers, especially teachers who are not accustomed to serving in predominantly Black and Brown communities. Education and being an educator, this is not a mission trip. The lives of students are in your hands. You are with these students for the most part, the majority of the year, 9 months out of 12 months of a year, you with these students. They with you 8 hours a day. This is not a mission trip. This is not for you to be able to say, oh, I teach in this Black community or this underserved community or this underprivileged community. And I'm here so that I can say that I did my one good thing in this world. Because if you're just waiting to say, oh, I did my one good thing, bitch, you're going to be waiting forever because this is,
All right.
it's just not a one good thing. Like, this is a lifestyle. This is, it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being. These are kids' lives at stake. And a lot of what we see today with achievement and opportunity gaps, and I won't even get into that, but a lot of what we see is because teachers are going in with the mindset that they are here to do mission work, when your job description or what it should be is that you're supposed to create a space where knowledge creation can happen. Students are supposed to take whatever it is that you're putting in front of them and to create some type of new knowledge and new understanding of not just what is happening in the school, but the world around them. When they leave your classroom, they should be able to apply something that you taught them that they outside of their school. And if your teaching is not reaching beyond those school walls, you need to find you something else to do.
And that's on period.
I 100% agree. Nick, my roommate Nick, was reading this post, and it's funny that you said mission trip, because it literally said something along the lines of, if you can go on the mission trip in Africa but not speak out about Black lives, then you were just in it for the vacation.
Oh.
And to that very point, you're a teacher. You're building futures. You're building the future of this country. So teach. And don't be on the bullshit about, I work in this district with Title I kids, and I just, I'm just so humbled.
Because Southwest was Title I, and
girl, get the fuck. Like, don't. Just don't. Move out of the way. Somebody that has a passion can come in and actually be, just be what they need to be and do what they need to do. Period. Okay, Ajane. So we always love to leave the podcast with a positive note, be it the podcast is positive or whatever. So is there anything, any advice, any a message of love or support that you would like to leave our audience with?
Well, first, I would like to again say thank you all for having me. I have truly enjoyed this almost, 2 hours almost. It has not felt like 2 hours. I appreciate it again. And if I had to leave anything just flat on the table, I would say that in the spirit of social justice and advocacy and education, the mission and the work and everything that goes into educating students is not just for teachers. It's not just for people who are trained in education. It's not just for people who have gone to school, and education is for everyone. Everyone can teach one. Everyone can reach someone. It doesn't matter what your profession is, but it is truly our goal as a community, and I speak now specifically to Black and Brown communities. It is truly our goal, and not just a goal, but it's our duty to educate our students, to educate our children, to educate those who are coming after us on the real and not just what has been handed to us, because that is
Mhm.
going to be the determining factor on whether generations after us have to continue to survive in the US or if they actually get to live and exist and be in the US. So
Mhm.
do what you can, regardless of your position. If you don't know what you can do, follow me on either of my Instagram,
I will show you the way.
and I will do what I can to assist you in educating someone. But it is a communal effort, and none of it can be done with just people who are in the education system.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Child, lead by example, girl. I'm loving it.
Yes. This is good black girl energy. That's 2 weeks in a row we've had like.
I mean, but are we surprised? Like, let's be honest.
No, not at all. That's why you're here, you know.
I mean, I fucking love it, and that's why. Oh my gosh, that's why it's so important to just be decent, child. Like, Black women are absolutely incredible.
I mean, that's all who brought us up. Like we didn't have no
absolutely, absolutely.
and side tangent, and we're gonna wrap it up.
Girl.
You know, I've always naturally gravitated. I've always had more female friends. Like even when I joined my organization, like I've just naturally like.
That was God. That was a divine intervention.
It was, Lord. Because my brothers, they be Lord. Anyways, I've always had this natural respect for women, and it's not even just the respect, the patriarchal view of women, and that they can't amount to anything, and
bullshit.
The
raggedy.
You know, we chivalry and just all these things that reinforce things that put women down. I've never had that view. So I'm just really sitting here like really at both black men and women sometimes. I'm like, why do y'all even look at each other like this? Like, I'm a strong black man who was brought up by 3 strong black women. I didn't have no niggas in my life. Like, I just don't understand how we get to these points and develop these things. Like that side tangent. Anyway,
it's up to us, and at every chance that I get, I just like black woman it. Black woman it. You got a problem? Black woman it. Just put a black woman in. One that is strong, one that knows who they are and know the impact that they can have on the space.
I mean, because behind every strong black man, there's probably a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So most
definitely. All right, love. Well, we're gonna wrap up this week's episode of BGO Pod. Follow us on Instagram at BGO_pod. We are streaming on Anchor now, honey. So get with the times, honey.
Hold them down.
Hold them down.
Like Anchor.
Okay. Like an anchor.
Oh my goodness.
All right, honey. We'll talk to y'all later.